What's good? Welcome to First Thing Podcast. On today's episode of First Thing Podcast, as you can see, I'm about 2 minutes from the house. So today we have our guest, Mitch Tischler, joining us to talk a little Washington Commanders offensive line and defensive line. We also will be talking about Terry McLaurin's contract. We have a new uniform that's going to be unveiled. Well, new or throwbackish type uniform that'll be unveiled. We'll talk Nationals, cleaning house, Mike Rizzo, Davey Martinez, both gone. And don't forget, we still have our all AFC offenses of all time, or in my case, offensive players that played in the AFC that I've seen actually play. So we got all that and more coming up. I hope y'all are ready. Let's go. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you what. Let's bring our guy, Mitch Tischler, in right now and get started. Hello, Mitch. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am a little sketchy right now. I am literally a minute away from my house, and I'm not looking at you at all. But I'm just trying to pull into the garage so we can get this thing going, Mitch.
I
How?
gotcha.
So as for you, let me ask this question. Let's start off with where we are. Last year, the last time we saw the Washington Commanders on the football field was in Philadelphia, and that defensive line on the first, well, that the defense period on the first of the game defensively, Saquon Barkley takes off, bumps his head on the goalpost. First play for Philly. Have they corrected that issue?
I mean, I don't know that you can say definitively one way or the other that anything's been corrected, but they certainly addressed it in the offseason. And I think that might be, as important as anything. Last year, this team got beat in the run game basically the entire season. And so much of that happened on the edges with the defensive ends getting either sucked inside or just blown out to the outside. And they've added a bunch of size to this D line. So I really like Dietrich Wise and Javon Kinlaw are both really, really big bodies. I don't think you can underestimate Eddie Goldman coming in and kind of the stability that he's going to be able to help out in the middle here. But ultimately, I think it's going to come down to, Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise for the most part. Obviously, Cleveland Farrell is going to be a part of it and, onto the back of the defensive line room. But if you're able to kind of change the way that this defense attacked the run game, then I think you're going to be able to hopefully see a more successful defense as this team continues in year two with this regime.
So I know that we let go of, John Allen. Um, you didn't hear much from him or Deron Payne.
If you can hear me, you're breaking up on me. I can't hear you at all.
My apologies. It looks like we have had some bad reception right there, and it looks like Mitch actually dropped off as well. I apologize to you all for that glitch right there. We are working hard to get Mitch back right now. Um, and let me see what I can do to get Mitch back. Hmm. Okay, we'll see what happens there. Like again, I said I apologize. The last question I was asking Mitch was if um, if we could see what Deron Payne and Golston and guys like that will do now that we lost now that we've lost Allen to Minnesota and we decided to let him go and move on from him. We also can't forget that we have other defensive linemen like the ones that we drafted last year, like Johnny Newton, that should get more playing time due to the fact that we did let John Allen go, and what type of things we will have going on in our defensive line this year. So hopefully, like I said, Mitch will come back. Uh, and again, I apologize. We all have lives and things that we are doing right now. So bear with us, right? We're all very, very busy. It is the middle of the summer and we have a lot going on. And I would like to thank Mitch for his time that he does give us. And again, apologies for, you know, um, the glitches that I had during that interview. We will see if he rejoins. So, um, as far as our offensive line goes, tell me, guys, tell me what you guys think about the players that we do have coming into camp. How should our offensive line look this year? Um, will it be better? Will the run game be better? Will the passing game be better? Will Jaden have more time now that we have offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil, who is one of the best in the game? What we will look like without our guy Sam Cosmi until he comes back from his injury. So all of these things are questions that the Commanders need to answer. And you can't do that until the pads go on. We are 20 days away. 20 days away from camp opening for the Commanders and and getting things going. It looks like we have Mitch back right now. Mitch, I'm sorry, man. I
All
really do
good.
apologize. It was going from the cell tower to pulling up to the house. Um, so I
No,
apologize. So
no
yeah,
worries. It happens.
yeah. So um, the question I was asking was with the loss of Deron Payne, you still have Johnny Newton. You got Golston coming in from San Fran. Um, how do we expect to replace the productivity or lack thereof of productivity from John Allen?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it best. In the seasons he played well, he got at least post second contract. He got hurt, and the seasons that he didn't get hurt, he didn't produce. So I don't know that you're really missing a whole lot from John Allen. There's a lot of nice things to be said about him, about stepping up and being a leader in the years where there was an entire void of leadership on this team. But he's not really a leader, in the traditional sense. He's he wants to buckle up a chin strap and go play. And I don't know that he wants to necessarily be the rah-rah vocal guy kind of telling guys what to do. And, the fact that they brought in some of these vets to step in to that leadership role, I think, makes him much more replaceable. And, Johnny Newton, I think, has a bright future. I think he has a lot of good things ahead of him. And I think you can say the same, about in the veteran style with Eddie Goldman coming in. He's going to be a big body in the middle. He's more of a kind of one technique, kind of nose guard, old school nose guard type guy. But he's a vet who's kind of been there and done that. I think he's going to step in and help out with the run game a lot. And then when it comes to Daron Payne, we're, contract year, time for him to produce. Coaches are very happy with what they saw in the offseason, and, they've talked during the mini camp periods about, how good he looked and how they kind of had to slow him down and pull the reins on him a little bit. I love to hear that. And all these things are great. And, you hope that it translates to the field. But, Daron didn't have a particularly, impactful season last year either. And I think he was part of the problem in the run game. So, I don't want to say that, he's easily replaceable because we know what he can do. It's just going to be a question of seeing him do it again because, now you're in a different defensive system. You're with a different group of defensive coaches. And those aren't the guys that paid him, a buttload of money. We'll say that.
Right.
So I think that, the way that they look at these interior guys is they want them to help free up the linebackers to flow and be able to do a lot of things. Daron is a little bit more of a playmaking type defensive tackle. Is it a perfect fit? We'll have to see how Daron and this coaching staff both adjust to their play styles as they get into year two.
Yeah. Okay, for sure. So I did want to speak about Johnny Newton. Last year around this time, he was dealing with foot injuries. This year, with the full off season, should we be expecting more from him right out the gate, or is it going to be like a slow roll for him to become the player that we think he can become?
I mean, when you miss a big portion of the offseason in your rookie season, it really kind of sets you back pretty far. And I think, we can look at Jordan McGee in the linebacker position. I think he's kind of in the same situation. I think he might be the player that exceeds expectation the most on the defense. That's Jordan McGee. Johnny Newton, I think, can be very good, but I think that, again, you got to see it. Like, you like what you saw in places last year and at times, but there were a lot of rookie mistakes there, both in snap count and being able to time up snaps and stuff like that, but also in gameplay. And the way that this group kind of rotates these D tackles, I don't know that you should expect to see, any of these guys have the type of seasons that either Daron or John had, going back 3, 4, 5 years where, you're looking at double-digit sacks or anything kind of close to that. But he can be a difference maker, and I think the biggest place he's going to be a difference maker is getting after the quarterback. I think he might be – Daron has the most skill when you talk about getting after the quarterback from the D tackle position. I think, again, with Daron, you just got to see it. He played too many snaps last year and had too little production to expect that he's going to go out there and do, what he did earlier in his career. I expect Johnny Newton to be kind of on the come up and take over that role as kind of the lead interior rusher there. And, for a defensive lineman, it's not necessarily about getting sacks. It's about pushing the quarterback off his spot and getting pressures and disrupting the interior. And, the more pressure they're able to put up the middle, the more that you're going to be able to get one-on-ones on the outside and scheme up some different looks and some different opportunities for both, D ends, but also linebackers and stuff like that. So I'm optimistic about, how this defensive line is going to stack up against the run. And quite frankly, kind of big picture, if you put the commander, if you force a team to be one-dimensional and only be able to pass the ball, if you're able to stop the run, I would take the Commanders' offense passing game versus just about any other one in the league. And I think that'll give them a lot of opportunities to get wins this season.
Okay. All right. So let's flip this over to the offensive side of the ball. We're here with Mitch Tischler. You can catch Mitch's work on
Beltway football.
Beltway football. Mitch does work for NBC for Washington as well. Right. So you can catch
we're Monumental Sports now.
Monumental. You can catch him and JP on Beltway Football Podcast as well. Great listen. Team 980, and you can catch them on 106.7 The Fan as well. Switching to the offensive side of the ball, Sam Cosmi went down last year with a bad injury late in the season and playoffs. I'm not expecting to see from him. What I'm thinking of as far as our offensive line play is sort of like what Cincinnati went through. They had a terrible line when they drafted Joe Burrow. The second year, they went out and got a couple of free agents and fixed their line better than it was the year before. So when I say that, I'm thinking of Laramie Tunsil coming in. You taking your rookie left tackle, maybe pushing him into the guard position or having him play right tackle. You drafted another tackle, and you bring back your leader and your center and Tyler Badass. Are we going from a two and a possible offensive lineman to maybe a solid 4 offensive lineman?
I think it's more than solid 4. This is the deepest offensive line I think this team has had in a long time. Obviously bringing in Laramie Tunsil is huge. Obviously, I don't think anyone who's listening to this knows he's one of the best tackles in football, and just having a dominant left tackle allows the rest of the offensive line to be better because you don't have to send that extra help, the running backs, the tight ends, or whatever, to both sides of the line, which is what they did a lot last year. And ultimately, I think it helps them in the passing game too, because you'll be able to get more guys out in routes. You can be more creative. You can do a lot of different things there. Certainly looks like Brandon Coleman's going to be your left guard as this season starts. Tyler Biadasz, obviously. Cosme has the torn ACL from last year. I wouldn't expect him back much before October, maybe even a little bit later than that. Who really knows? So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. But what I like a lot about this O-line is that as you look at it, you have, the right side is kind of up in the air, right? Is Josh Connolly going to start? Is Andrew Wiley going to start at right tackle? I think ultimately we're going to see a little bit like what they did with Brandon Coleman last year, kind of the, work Josh Connolly into the system a little bit and let him kind of get comfortable in the NFL before you go to him full time. And that leaves right guard as an interesting position because you have Nick Allegretti, who has a ton of starting experience. Wasn't great last year on the left side, but that doesn't mean that, he can't play better with a better O-line around him. And Trent Scott stepped up and played extremely well at guard.
Mm-hmm.
And, I keep going back to this, it was 8 years ago or so when they brought in Eric Flowers from the Giants.
Yep.
He was a top 10 pick at left tackle. He came over and played right guard and had a very good season for the Commanders. And Trent Scott, in the time that he was, on this roster, that he played guard last year, played well. So it's going to be a fun battle. And I like that, whoever ends up coming out on top, starting in that guard position, you have a guy, with experience there as the backup. Same thing at the right tackle position. You have a guy with experience, and then, the back end of the O-line is going to be interesting to see kind of what they do with it. But, this is going to be probably the best starting 5, probably the best 8, 9, 10 O-linemen that this team has had since, back in the early Trent Williams days. So this front office, this coaching staff, made it a point to get better and to try and make things as easy as they could for Jaden. And I think they did that with the additions on the O-line, with the addition of Deebo Samuel, spending real draft capital on a wide receiver. I think that this offense is prone to take a big step, and that would be saying a lot considering how well they played last year.
Okay. Got you. I got a couple of questions highlighted. I'm going to get to those here a little later. Sticking with the offensive line and defensive line, how many offensive linemen do you think the Commanders will keep this year? Because this roster, the way that they've constructed it, is going to be some tough cuts. And when you have tough cuts, that means that you're ready to compete. So I see this year, people getting cut will latch on to other teams, where that wasn't the case in previous years. How many offensive linemen do we keep for the initial 53?
I think 9. I mean, I think you can probably reasonably guess 8 of them in Tunsil, Coleman, Biadasz, Wiley, Connerly, Allegretti, Trent Scott, and probably Michael Dieter. And I know folks were frustrated with Dieter's play last year, but you don't really have a backup center on this roster at the moment.
Right.
And Dieter's kind of the only guy that can kind of play both. So I think you can look at 8 there. They brought in the kid from Pittsburgh, Nate Herbig,
Right.
who, is another vet guy that's been there. Chris Paul obviously has been around for a while. They have a couple different options. Maybe that end of the roster O-lineman isn't on this roster yet. It might be somebody that they end up picking up. But, I think this is a league where, you're going to end up starting, multiple guys at multiple different positions just because of the attrition, because of the injuries, because of the length of the season. Honestly, partially because of the toughness of this schedule, not just the teams they play, but the amount of travel they have in that middle portion of the season, the night games to, it all kind of affects everything. And so you need a deep O-line in today's NFL. And, what I like about this coaching staff and, this front office is that they're truly, coach 1 to 53, not just 1 to 22, which we saw a whole lot of in years past with different staffs that were here.
All right. So I'm going to ask you the tough questions. Of course, that's why we bring you on here. So we're talking offensive line right now with Mitch Tischler. So let's rank the NFC East offensive linemen from 4 to 1.
All NFC offensive linemen? All
No,
NFC East
NFC
offensive
East.
linemen?
NFC East, just our division.
I mean, that's
like I'm talking total in your starting 5,
team ranks?
Yes.
Okay. That's a lot. That's a lot more reasonable. I would start with either the Eagles are 1, Commanders 2. I think it's a toss up, but I guess I would go Giants 3, Cowboys 4.
All right.
Cowboys 3, Giants 4. Cowboys 3, Giants 4. But I think there's a big gap between where you have the Commanders and Eagles, and then on down. So I think that'll be a big difference maker. And when you look at the O-line, I mean, it's important that they are getting this deep because you look at some of these defensive players that are in the division that they're going to have to go up against, and there are some beasts out there, on all 3 teams. So I like that they're kind of building this roster to compete directly with the teams that they're going to be playing most year in and year out. And they're trying to build some depth, which obviously with all the years of, Ron Rivera's failed draft picks, you didn't really have when they came in.
Yeah. All right. Now we rank the offensive lines. Let's do the same thing with the defensive lines. This time start at number 4, working your way to number 1.
I probably got to go Commanders 4, just in that I don't know, no one knew what Dante Fowler was going to be last year. No one thought he was going to be a double-digit sack guy. I don't know that as I look at this roster, there's anyone I can pinpoint that I think is going to be a double-digit sack guy. So as far as, stat production and, how folks will rank D-lines, I think the Commanders are probably 4, Cowboys 3, Giants 2, Eagles 1. And it's hard to rank the Cowboys 3 with a guy like Michael Parsons over there.
Right.
But I think when you look, kind of starting 4, the Giants have done a really, really good job of beefing up that D-line. And obviously Dexter Lawrence is an absolute beast over there. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how it plays out. But, when I look at the Commanders D-line, it's not sexy. I think it's just going to kind of get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll definitely be a point of contention as we go through the season. I know folks are going to get frustrated and annoyed and, squabble about sacks and stats and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if this team, is able to move up, 10 places in the NFL rankings for, run stopping, I think it gives this defense a whole lot better chance to really compete.
All right. So my last question about this offense and defensive line is really about you. You're about 20 days away from heading out to camp. How excited are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, way less than 20 days. But
you're right.
We're,
you got rookies. I forgot. You got the rookies that you got to report. Yeah,
10 days away from the rookies reporting. So it's right around the corner. I'm so excited for football to be back. I mean, I've covered this team since 2007, and there hasn't been this kind of excitement around a team, and this expectation that they're going to be great, right away. So I can't wait for football to get back. It's going to be great to see, and quite frankly, all the offseason programs are fun to watch and talk about. But watching guys run around in shorts and a t-shirt only do so much for you. That first day of one-on-ones with the O-line and D-line is going to be like Christmas morning.
Yeah, especially when the pads come on. I think those guys are ready. I get skill positions are for shorts and t-shirts, but when pads come on, that's for offensive linemen, defensive linemen, the running game, linebackers, and things of that nature. So let's go to a couple of questions right here for you. The first one is from Garage Gym Life. That's our guy, John, right there. He says, Mitch, do you think Deron Payne's lack of visible production is because of what they asked him to do?
I think in part, this was a big change in defensive scheme, particularly for the interior guys. They are being asked to be more of the traditional defensive tackles, nose guard types, to hold up offensive linemen and let those linebackers flow. But also, Deron wasn't necessarily great in the run game and doing some of the things that he was asked to do. So I think it kind of I think it goes both ways. Deron should come in as motivated as humanly possible, this season, and that's what you want from from these guys, and it's part of the reason why why bringing in Debo, was as exciting as it is, because that's another guy who's got to come in super motivated. You have a couple of these players who are going to be joining this team and needing to show the rest of the NFL what they can do and that they deserve big money next offseason. And if the Commanders end up being the guys to give them that money if they play well, great. If not, you brought in somebody who helped you out for a season, and then you keep it moving, because this coaching staff clearly isn't concerned about bringing in kind of 1 or 2 year players and helping kind of bridge the gap until their draft picks are able to start kind of working their way in and being impact contributing players.
All right. Lady A says, hi, Mitch. Sorry she can't be here today, but she says hello to you. And then before we get to our next question, I wanted to ask you a little bit about Terry McLaurin's contract. Of course, you're not in there negotiating anything like that, but should we as fans, as people that are interested in the Washington Commanders and seeing them be successful, should we be concerned the fact that the contract's not signed yet, or that reports are coming out that Terry's unhappy? And should we be concerned, or should we just let the things play out?
Terry has been a player that, through all of the BS that he's had to deal with since he came to Washington, has never been a vocal guy about all of the issues that have come through this organization, all the quarterbacks that he's had to play with, all the different things. So if you're hearing reports about Terry being unhappy and this, that, and the other, it's probably pretty reasonable to think that's not necessarily coming from Terry directly, and it's a negotiating ploy by his agent and his agency, and that's how I choose to look at it. Maybe I'll be proven to be wrong, but that's kind of where I look at any of these reports about him being unhappy and frustrated or upset or anything like that. I would be shocked if we don't have a contract by Monday, which is what the 15th, 14th, 15th, yes, whatever day it is. I understand fans being frustrated that the deal isn't done and the threat of what may be, but Terry's been nothing but an incredibly stand-up human being and stand-up player since the minute he joined this organization, and he deserves every penny that he's going to get, and he deserves every penny of he deserves to push this thing to get as much money as he can, because quite frankly, he showed last year with a good quarterback how damn good he can be compared to the rest of the NFL and those receivers. So ultimately, I think this deal gets done. I've said it from the beginning. I'm not particularly concerned that it's not going to get done, but as this thing pushes further and further into the summer, the more and more it becomes a question mark. But you think about some of the things that we as a fan base have had to worry about in the dead months of the NFL, the Junes and Julys over the past years, and the fact that we're talking about Terry and his contract is the biggest issue, to me is welcome that we're talking football. But I'll go back to front office, coaching staff. They did everything this offseason to bolster everything around Jaden Daniels, right? They brought in the O-line. They brought in another receiver. They picked the receiver at the top of the draft. Everything they've done has been about making Jaden's life easier. What sense would it make at this point to make all of those moves and talk about wanting to help Jaden progress and become the best quarterback he can, and then not bring back his top receiver? It doesn't make sense. And everything that this group has done has been on the up and up, and has been pretty straightforward. And they've talked about wanting to re-sign him. I expect them to re-sign him.
Absolutely, absolutely. I am in total agreement with you. So the last time we did something this big, it was a complete disaster. What am I talking about? I'm talking about 2-2-22. The last time they unveiled something.
We are the Commanders.
Right. Terrible. Worst kept secret in Washington. New ownership, much tighter. I'm not going to get you in any trouble when it comes to this. However, my question to you is tomorrow, the Washington Commanders will give their schedule for what uniforms they are wearing and when. There's supposed to be a special uniform in there that goes back to the past. My question is simply this: is it a uniform that we will recognize?
I first of all think that the uniforms are going to go back to traditional burgundy and gold. The NFL, Dan Snyder, the Nike, all kind of really screwed up the jersey rebrand. The colors aren't right. They're not traditional burgundy gold. They're not real burgundy and gold. I expect we're going to see some real burgundy and gold. I think we're going to see some burgundy helmets with striping, with yellow and or white striping on it. And I expect the throwback jersey to have the spear on it. And I think that, for fans who are hard up about Redskins versus Commanders, I think they're going to have to settle with that's going to be the closest that you're going to get to, native imagery, Redskins imagery, if you will. But I think that's a big step in the right direction, and it gives fans something to hold on to from the previous years. And we'll see what it all ends up looking like, tomorrow when they release it. But I'd be surprised if the people who reasonably want to support this team without just screaming about the Redskins left, right, and center, I think once these jerseys come out, I think folks are generally going to be happy. But of course, you can never make everybody happy. So, but I think ultimately, to me, the most important thing they can do is get back to burgundy and gold. I mean, if the jerseys as they stand were, the burgundy and gold that you and I, that we all knew growing up, I think they'd be a little bit more tolerable. I also think it would help. I think had they done it right from the beginning, would have helped with the entire rebrand and the name and all that different stuff. Ultimately, that's the most important thing to me. And it's going to be fun to see reaction tomorrow morning when they come out.
Okay, great. House Sanchez here says, what do you think the New Jersey will look like? You told us we'll be happy a little bit. The yellow helmets, the burgundy helmets with the block W, of course, is the new staple. But will they retro those yellow helmets? Do you think that is in the future?
Honestly, I don't know. I think that they're going to have a fourth helmet that they're going to come out with tomorrow. If you think to the Jason Campbell years spear helmets and jerseys, those were a little bit of a darker burgundy than the traditional burgundy that we saw. I think it might look a little bit more like that. But I don't really know. And would the yellow helmets be cool? Yeah, I think white helmets would be cool too. I think I'm in the minority, but I pretty much like the black helmets. I wish they were matte black instead of glossy black. But I don't hate that as a fourth jersey per se. But I think it'll be very familiar for fans. I don't think that this group is gonna, pardon the pun, go off the reservation with what they decide to do with the new set of gear.
Awesome. Look, Mike H says Harris hit a home run if he goes back goes full spear, and the 70th anniversary uniforms or unis. Absolutely. I would believe anything that gets us closer to what we remember, like, that burgundy right there, right?
Right.
Gets us closer to what we remember, right? That's the correct burgundy. So I told Derek this earlier, and I said the same thing on Lake Lewis. When those colors came out, it was a new franchise. It wasn't just a rebrand. You took everything away. Some of the players were upset about the colors, and to get back to that correct burgundy, to that correct gold. Um, I mean, you can't. I get it. Nike doesn't have the correct color, but they had it. So why can't you get the correct color?
Right.
It
I mean, listen, we've heard Josh Harris and company talk about wanting to bridge the gap. Bridge the old name, the old logo colors and all that stuff with the new brand. And the best way to do that for me is to get you to real burgundy and gold. And
mm-hmm.
I expect that that's going to be the case. This group has done a pretty good job of not missing important milestones, important stats, and I think that they'll get it done here again.
All right. Thank you for your time. I always appreciate it. Again, I apologize for the technical issues earlier.
All good.
All right.
All good.
Listen,
Thanks so much for having me.
Don't sweat too much, but we will be tuning into Beltway Football Podcast, and we'll catch you on Monumental for your updates and keeping us close to the action. Pray for no injuries during training camp so we can go into the season fully healthy. And are you excited about that trip to Spain?
Quite excited about it. A couple of years ago when they went to London, I mean, the game ended up being not great, but the rest of the trip was a ton of fun. And, I like the fact that they're going to have the bye week afterwards to recoup. And, honestly, you can be upset. You can feel however you feel about the schedule, but the late bye week is tough for whatever it is, fourth season in a row. But to get that late bye week before you go on that hellish stretch of games against the NFC East, it's not the worst thing in the world.
So are you staying an extra week in Spain since it's a bye week right after?
I'm planning to. I think I'm going to go to Portugal and Morocco in a couple of days afterwards. So it'll be a good little trip, good little European vacation.
Well, that's the way you do it, right? That's exactly how you do it. So we got to have you back before Spain and after Spain so you can tell us some of the great food and places that you've been. And I look forward to seeing you here in Dallas when you come down. Always, whenever you guys come down, I'm going to find out where you are, and I'm going to meet you there.
It sounds great. We'll let you know.
We'll get JP to buy us a couple of beers because he says he owes us anyway. So,
I mean, I encourage everybody on every road trip to take JP up on that. He owes everybody.
Yeah, he does. Thank you again for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
That was Mitch Tischler from Beltway Football Podcast and Monumental Sports. Listen, it's just your boy Pick today. So it's going to be me and you. So let's talk. All right. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball now. All right. The Washington Nationals cleaned house. No more Davey Martinez as manager. No more Mike Rizzo as the GM. Did this thing take too long? Should they have done it earlier? They went on an 11-game losing streak. Davey Martinez said it's not the coach's fault, pretty much throwing his players under the bus, and Mike Rizzo backed him, stayed with this guy. He's loyal to him. They did win a championship way back when, almost 11, 12 years ago. But was it too late for the Nationals to clean house? Let me know what you guys think, as well as how long should this rebuild really have taken? And my final question to you all is, do you think that Rizzo's gone because he refused to let Mike go? All right. All right. So my guy Mike H here says we have one player over 10 months. They did Rizzo a favor. Here by letting him go. I believe Mike Rizzo is a really good GM. He does find hidden gems. He did make a heck of a deal with the Padres, I believe it was, to get some of the young talent that we have on the team right now. However, look at our farm system. Our farm system, baseball is built from, double A, triple A ball, things of that nature, that our farm system is pretty empty right now. So you didn't have any players in the top 100, and some of the ones that you did have are not panning out until you made that deal with the Padres. Um, and that's when you got some players in the top 100 and things of that nature. His draft picks have not been doing so great as well. Um, so I get it. I hear you yelling, sell the team. You're talking about ownership there. Right now, ownership doesn't have anything to stand behind. Rizzo, did what he was supposed to. Took a lot of bullets for the learners. Um, and he'll be on the Junkies tomorrow morning, at his regularly scheduled time. But I would not expect for Mike Rizzo to go out, in a blaze of glory, because he still wants to be employed by somebody else, as we all do. So you can't, go out and lay everything at the foot of ownership, because you still have a job that you want to do. Unless he's going to be done with baseball, that's the only way I expect him to go out and go full guns a blazing versus ownership. Other than that, I expect him to, toe the line. He may say some things like, I didn't have the funds that I needed to go out and get players. I believe that, we could have won this year had we, spent a little bit of money. In baseball, you do have to spend money. So I expect him to say things of that nature. As far as Davey Martinez goes, he's you can't take it away from him. He's a World Series manager, right? We know that the learners before this would have a manager for 2 years at most. They were really frugal with the contracts, and they didn't want to spend a lot of money on managers. But at that time, when David Martinez came, the team rallied behind each other. You could say it was maybe more players that got us our first World Series here for the Washington Nationals. But you can't take it away from the manager. He handled the personalities in the locker room. He put out fires, and he still continued to put out fires, to this day. Maybe not held players accountable the way that some other managers would by, when you're not doing so well, send you back down, get you more at bats, get you more time in the field. Base running errors didn't get you benched for a game or two. So there are some other things that he could possibly have done to let the team know to perform, or there are consequences to not performing, like you see with other baseball teams. They'll bring a person up, because hey, he's not hitting, so we're going to send him down. We're going to get him more at bats. We're going to get his swing corrected, and then when he's ready, when we know that he's hitting the way that we think he should, when he's understanding what's happening to him at the plate, we'll bring him back up. It's been a lot of times that these guys have gone cold. As far as Rizzo, the one time that you gave us a bullpen, we won a World Series, and the bullpen was always the question. As far as, we don't have a bullpen, but we know Mike Rizzo's a ninja. He'll figure it out. And I said ninja, not the other word. He's a ninja, and he's going to figure it out, and he's going to go get us some bullpen help. But when you're 20 games back, there's no need to. Now you got to sell off pieces. All right, so here's Cuzzo. He says, "So is this the truth? They're getting the first round pick. They do have the first round pick in Sunday's MLB draft. Um, the question is, where are they going to go? Who are they going to draft? And they're actually playing right now. So we'll see what this new leadership is going to look like. We'll see what happens with the trade deadline. Will we be sellers? Will we be buyers? As far as that goes, the Martinez, Mike H says, the Martinez era may have run its course. Love and respect to him, though. Absolutely correct. Again, he too is a World Series GM. We're talking. I'm sorry. Rizzo is a World Series GM. Martinez, absolutely World Series winning manager. So they will always have that on their resume. They have these fat rings to prove it as well. So we'll see what happens with those two. Where will they end up? If not later on this year or next year, or sometimes people wind up sitting out for a year, waiting to go to the perfect spot to show, hey, it wasn't me, it was them. Our next topic here that we're going to talk about, because you guys know baseball kills me. I talked about it with Mitch here. Terry McLaurin's contract. What do you guys think the holdup is? Do you think it's the fact that Terry is 30? Or do you think it's the length of the contract? So it could be age, length of contract, or money, right? So respond with its age, its length of contract, or money. Let me know what you guys think. I always said that Terry's contract is going to start with the 3 and end with the 4. My thing was 3-year contract with the team option for a 4th year. So that way, in your age 33 year, if there's a big drop off, the team has the right to get out of that contract. No NFL contracts are fully guaranteed. Would you fully guarantee the first 2 years and then do something different on the back end? Make year 3 really incentive based, and then the team has that 4th year. So again, is it age, length of contract, or is it money? What's the holdup here for Terry's contract extension? I had a conversation earlier this year. Length of contract and guaranteed money is what Cuzzo says. Length of contract and guaranteed money. I had a conversation with John earlier today. If you go back and look, and let's get this conversation in perspective for what I'm about to present here. Anthony from the Team 980 said, Jaden makes players better. I think that's the way he said it. Jaden elevates other players. And John called in a straight panic and was like, you can't say that about Terry. And I was like, did you hear the rest of the answer? And he was like, I didn't. I just want to vent right now. Okay, good. Vent, but let me save you some breath. Jaden elevates players like Alameda Zacchaeus. He elevates players like Jamison Crowder. He manipulates defenses with his eyes. He stresses defense with his legs. Crowder is an older wide receiver, has been in the league forever. But Crowder got open because Jaden would move in the pocket, threaten to roll out, and then DBs come off of their man because what could be 5 yards will turn into 25 yards, right? So he stresses defenses that way. So what we told him to look at was the fact that Terry broke a franchise record this year that stood for almost 20-something years, 13 touchdowns, right? Perfect. But if you look over his, I forgot what it's called, points per whatever, Terry was number 2 in that statistic. And the number 1 person is Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Detroit Lions, who plays in the slot. Him and Terry are separated by like 1,000 yards, I believe. Amon-Ra St. Brown had like 18 touchdowns or something like that. Terry had 15. So the points expected, Amon-Ra St. Brown was absolutely number 1 with like 90-something points. Terry is the second highest wide receiver on that list with like 80-something. So no, you're not getting Amon-Ra St. Brown's numbers as far as contracts because the age difference is just really ridiculous. However, DK Metcalf, same draft class, a couple of years younger than Terry, you should surpass DK. You deserve to surpass DK. DK's played with some really good quarterbacks. Terry's played with, quarterbacks that my mom could outduel in 7-on-7 passing camp. You're not gonna hit my mom. No, we're not tackling my mom. We're not doing that. But if my mom had to be touched or grab her flag, I believe my mom could probably beat out Taylor Heineke. Like I know she throws a better deep ball than he does, and my mom is 70 years old. So no, we're not doing that. Terry doesn't need to be elevated by JD. Terry is JD's go-to number one wide receiver. And you heard Mitch say everything that the team has done this year has been to elevate Jaden and to get him to perform at his best to make the game easier for him. So not signing Terry doesn't make any sense. Let's see what Mike H said. Mike H said length, but anything over 33 is rich, right? 33, 34 is not rich. It's another mill. You can put that off in a signing bonus. You can do different things with that. That's where you have guys like Terry. That's where we are with guys like Terry. I don't know what you're talking about when you say guys like Terry. Terry came into the league as an older wide receiver, and we saw what he did in year one. In year one, he lit Philly up. We saw how Terry was drafted literally to play special teams. When he came out of Ohio State, don't forget, these Ohio State wide receivers have been coached, and you saw Terry this offseason back at Ohio State by an NFL wide receiver in Brian Hartline. B. Hartline, I believe is what his name is. That dude played in the league. That dude has been at Ohio State coaching them dudes up. Look at Ohio State wide receivers, man. Over the last couple of years, they call that place wide receiver U for a reason. They are being coached excellently. So, yes, he came to the league to play special teams, but when he got there, he shot at that wide receiver draft board really fast. We didn't even see Terry in the preseason. That should have told us something about him. Like, he didn't get cut. He made the starting 53, and week one, he lit Philly up. They weren't ready. That speed that he has, his ball tracking skills, his willing to work on his game, things of that nature, Mike. So I got you. Let me finish reading your comment. I think they will clean books when Jaden is due. I'm not sure. There are cornerstone guys that you have to get wrapped up. If you don't see a drop off in Terry's production, I don't think you, at this point in time, when Jaden's contract comes up, he will be 34 when Jaden's contract. Jaden actually will be eligible in year 3 for a contract extension. That's when you can start negotiating with him. He has a 5-year deal, but if he plays well in year 2, plays well in year 3, they're already going to be working on that contract extension, which won't kick in until his year 5. So you could extend Terry for another year. You can actually get that year, his 34th year of birth into the numbers, and then year 35, if he's hasn't lost speed, if he's still healthy and playing all the games and still productive, you could give him a 1-year deal. So Terry is everything we asked of him. I hate it's gone this far. I think Terry will be signed, like he said, probably next week. Thanks for agreeing with me here. Still looking to hear from you, John, and the rest of you guys that are in the chat. Dump Trick Don, still waiting to hear what you think as well. Okay, so with that being said, it's just me. I'm not going to give you my all AFC offensive of all time. I'm not going to do that. I'll do that on Saturday when we have the rest of the guys and lady here. So what I will do is tell you this. I'll tell you that my team, again, is pretty much going to be the winner. Y'all know I put a lot of homework into this. I go back, I do my research. I look for dogs, people that you go back and say, oh yeah, I remember that person. So my team is going to be elite. My team is going to be one that you guys will be proud of. Let's see what Cuzzo says here. It says Terry has built himself as a quiet elite wide receiver and stays consistent every year. If you want Jaden to take the next level, we need Terry on the field. Absolutely, pretty much what Mitch Tischler said to us earlier in the show. If you missed it, go back and watch when Mitch Tischler comes back on after my technical issues to see what his comments are about the Washington Commanders' offense and defensive line, about Terry's contract, and finally about what we should expect from the Washington Commanders releasing their 2025-26 uniforms, which ones they will be wearing. What's up, man? Marcus is in the building. He says, "What's up, family? I believe Terry will be in training camp." I believe so as well. The only reason we're getting a little worried and things are getting a little tense here is because if you think back, the last time Terry signed this extension, totally different front office. It was around the 5th of July, so right after the holidays, he signed his deal. Like John said, he could be waiting for all the coaches and everybody to be there. Mitch said it should be around Monday or Tuesday. And the rookies report, he said, in about 8 days. So everybody should be, off of their vacation, making sure they stay in shape, getting their sprints in, getting their last minute rest and time in with the family, but getting those workouts done early before you and I think about getting out of bed. They should be in gyms working and keeping themselves in shape. No news is good news when it comes to the Washington Commanders. We're talking contracts, yes, but it is that time of year where when you start seeing your favorite players pop up in the news, it's probably a bad thing. So if we don't hear anything else and we're just talking contracts and uniforms until the start of camp, that's a wonderful thing for the Washington Commanders. Whatever the outcome is, can't go into the season with Terry feeling disrespected. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Hope. One thing that wasn't on my rundown that I forgot to talk about. Netflix special quarterbacks dropped last night or around midnight. Are you guys looking forward to watching quarterbacks? Let me know what you think about that. And if you guys are watching quarterbacks, we'll talk about it on Saturday as well. So the quarterbacks that they are following from last year, it'll be Joe Burrow. It'll be Kirk Cousins again. Kirk Cousins will always accept, quarterback because they write him a fat check. And then Jared Goff is the third quarterback this year. And you saw what type of season the Detroit Lions had. And we get to see them play the Washington Commanders again in Detroit and watch Jared Goff just melt. So I'm excited to see. We played all three of those quarterbacks last year. So there should be some absolute Commanders on that. We should see Jaden lighting the Bengals up and Joe Burrow just on the sideline, and there's nothing he can do about it. We should see Kirk Cousins sitting on the sideline as they play Washington, and Michael Penix Jr. makes his first start, and we'll see what he did to help him in the background. And then again, we'll get to see them play the Detroit Lions and Jared Goff in the playoffs and in their season as well. So I'm absolutely going to sit here and watch quarterbacks. I'll probably binge watch it tonight. Let me know what you guys think, and let's discuss it on Saturday. What I love about the front office is no leaks coming out of the building. Absolutely. Now, there are absolutely no leaks coming out of the building. The reporters are, held. There's some things that they can't talk about, some things that they can talk about, but I look forward to the reactions tomorrow for the uniforms. I look forward to my phone blowing up and talking to you guys about it, possibly tomorrow night. So stay glued to YouTube. Enable alerts for First Ring Podcast. And as always, I really, really thank you all for watching. Cuzzo says, I'm curious to see how Captain Kirk, I'm curious to see how they do Captain Kirk in the season. Me too. Me too. I am literally looking forward to seeing Captain Kirk just count money. Y'all know that's what he do best. 100, 200, 300, 400. Man, that's $200. You owe me some more money. Captain Kirk is not going to miss a paycheck. He's definitely not going to do that. So, man, I would like to thank you all for watching First String Podcast. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to First String Podcast. Hit the bell to enable alerts for new content just like this. And like we said, I may have a reaction video tomorrow to the new Commander's uniforms. So enable that alert button and we can discuss everything. And don't forget to tell a friend about First String Podcast, man. We'll continue to grow and talk a lot of football this coming up season. So, as y'all know, shout out to my son. United States Air Force, First String Podcast, second to none. Come and get some. Say it's not here. He will say go dogs, and I say hail.
It's wartime, baby. This what you signed up for. This what we worked hard for. You for. Y'all the first string. Y'all gotta go set the tone now. Hey, let's go. Lace them up. It's the First String Podcast show. Hey, let's go. They spitting facts on the First String Podcast show. Hey, let's go. Let's go. Hey, let's go. 'Cause it's time for the First String Podcast show. Hey, let's go. Lace them up. It's the First String Podcast show. Hey, let's go. They spitting facts on the First String Podcast show. Imagine talking sports, having fun with the fam. At a starting lineup, First String is what you have. An entertaining stream with the Pro Bowl cast. When the viewers chime in, they gon' answer what you ask. Representing for the Queens, yeah, we got Lady A. A super knowledgeable woman who can break down any play. Said from the South, so he rep GA. The Falcons, the Bulldogs, the whole Peach State. Drunk Uncle Al, only way you can describe him. Every time he crack the mic, you know he gon' be wildin'. Last but not least, it's my man Toothpick. Commanders is a squad and he the captain of the ship. So if you feel the vibe,